Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with the practice questions for the day, a quick gentle reminder. BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS has already launched its official Telegram channel. If you have not yet joined the channel, please do join so that you get all the current affairs related updates. Let's look into the first question. With respect to Kangaroo codes, which of the following statements are correct? It is an unauthorized code not sanctioned by law. Kangaroo codes are inequitable. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Kangaroo code. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When we look into the first statement, it reads, it is an unauthorized code not sanctioned by law. This statement is right. What do we understand by this? We have the Constitution of India, which defines multiple courts. We have the Supreme Court at the top of the hierarchy, followed by the higher courts. We also have the lower courts as well. This is what is established under the Constitution and the laws of the country. But do we have Kap Panchayats, which are extrajudicial in nature, having the authority of law? No. The Kap Panchayats, for example, are the Kangaroo courts. They do not have any authority of law. There is no legislature which has passed a law for the Kap Panchayats, but Kap Panchayats in number of places act as extrajudicial, and it is called as the Kangaroo court. So it is an unauthorized court not sanctioned by law. The example would be the Kap Panchayats. So the first statement is right. The second statement reads, Kangaroo courts are inequitable. Kangaroo courts are inferior. They are informal. They are inequitable. They are informal primarily because they are not established by the law. The formal setup includes the Supreme Court, High Court and the lower courts. Since they are not formal, they are completely informal in nature, and added to it, they do not have any fixed structure and the procedures that have to be followed, which is why it is called as inequitable. So the judgment that is delivered may not serve the purpose, and ultimately there can be principles of law and justice which can be disregarded by these Kangaroo courts. So the second statement says Kangaroo courts are inequitable. This statement is right primarily because they do not have the structure, and at the same time there is a lot of biasness that might be involved, and some of these judgments passed by the Kangaroo courts are not in line with the principles of law. Now let's look into the next practice question. Shantilal Shah committee is related to which amongst the following? RBI appointed committee on digital payments, committee appointed to examine the functioning of banks, committee constituted by India's Ministry of Environment to review India's major environmental laws. The committee proposed comprehensive abortion care for the women. Which of the statement best describes about the Shantilal Shah committee? The answer to this is D, which is nothing but the committee proposed comprehensive abortion care for the women, and this happened in the 1970s. So when you go back to the 1950s, 60s and the 70s, we do not have the abortion laws in the country. So what does the government do? The government appoints one of the committee called as the Shantilal Shah committee. So the Shantilal committee was appointed by the government basically to look into the abortion laws that have to be envisaged in the near future. So the committee carried out a comprehensive review of the socio-cultural, legal, medical aspects of the abortion, and in 1966 recommended legalizing abortion in its report to prevent the abortion related issues. So remember, Shantilal Shah committee was appointed by the government, and this committee came up with its report in 1966, and this was all about abortion laws. And once this particular report was given to the government came up with what is called as the MTP Act of 1971. What is this MTP Act? This is nothing but Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, which was brought into force in the year 1971. This was a major legislation as it reduced the number of unsafe illegal abortions. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here speaks about termination of 33-week pregnancy and abortions. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are incorrect with respect to BharatNet project? The objective is to provide internet connectivity in rural and remote areas. The entire project is being funded by Universal Service Obligation Fund. The project is a center-state collaborative project with the states contributing free rights of way for establishing the optical fiber network. Which of the statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this would be none. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the BharatNet infrastructure and the project. So when we speak about BharatNet, what are the statements given here? The objective is to provide internet connectivity in rural and remote areas. This statement is right. What was the essence of this particular project? We have something called as the digital divide. What is this digital divide? Let's take the urban areas and the rural areas. When it comes to the urban areas currently, what we have is the internet penetration. Do we have the same amount of internet penetration in the rural areas? No. Why? That is because in the urban areas, what we have is the private companies which operate. The private companies basically believe in one motive, and that happens to be profit. So they work mostly in the urban areas. They provide internet facilities, but the same number of private companies may not operate in the rural areas because they may not be able to generate enough amount of profit. So what has the government decided? The government feels that we have to come up with some of the infrastructure development, that is internet connectivity will have to be provided at the rural areas, especially primarily because in urban areas the private companies are able to cater to it. In the rural areas, what we have to come up with is the infrastructure so that internet penetration happens in the rural and the remote areas. To provide this internet penetration and infrastructure, what we have is the BharatNet project. So the objective is to provide internet connectivity in rural and remote areas. First statement is right. The entire project is being funded by Universal Service Obligation Fund. This statement is also right. The project is a center state collaborative project. Yes, both the central government and the state governments have come together to make this project a successful one. This basically means some of the funding will be provided by the central government, and how it has to operate, where it has to go, where are the roads have to be dug, all this will be taken up by the state governments. So this will have a collaborative effect between the central government as well as the state government. So the third statement is also right as well. So if we speak about this BharatNet project, it is one of the digital plans of the government of India to digitally connect all of India's villages and gram panchayats by broadband internet connectivity. It aims to connect all of India's households, specifically rural households, through demand, affordable, high-speed internet connectivity to fulfill the objectives of Digital India program in partnership with states and the private sector. The BharatNet project proposes broadband connectivity to households under village panchayats, even to government institutions at the district level. It intends to cover 2.5 lakh gram panchayats for the provision of e-governance, e-healthcare, e-commerce, e-education, public interest access services. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this project. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following pairs. We have the battle on one side, fought between on the other side. Battle of Hydaspes, Alexander the Great and the King Porus. Battle of Baligram, Humayun and Sher Shah. Battle of Veni, Chola King Karikala and Pandya and Chera kings. Battle of Kanwa, Babur and Sultan Muhammad Lodi. How many pairs given above are correctly matched? The answer to this is only 3 pairs. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to Alexander. So when we look into the statements, yes, Battle of Hydaspes was fought between Alexander and King Porus. First one is right. Battle of Baligram between Humayun and Sher Shah. Second is right. Battle of Veni between Chola King Karikala and Pandya and Chera kings. Third statement is also right. But when it comes to Kanwa, it is not between Babur and Sultan Muhammad Lodi, but instead when it comes to Kanwa, it is Babur against Rana Sanga. Since 3 are correctly matched, the fourth one is wrongly matched. Only 3 pairs are correctly matched. Now, if we look into some of the important battles, we have the Battle of Kanwa, where the parties included Babur against Rana Singh, and the result happens to be Mughal victory. Then we have Battle of Gagara, Babur against Muhammad Lodi, and the Mughal victory. And where did it take place? It took place across Gagara river in Bihar. Then we have Battle of Chausa, where Sher Shah fought against Humayun. Mughal laws happened. Where is it? Chausa in Bihar. These are some of the important battles that you have to remember. Now, if we speak about Alexander, Alexander was a son of Philip of Macedonia. At that time, in the 14th century BC, the Greeks and the Iranians were fighting for the supremacy of the world. Alexander had conquered Asia Minor along with Iran and Iraq. He then marched into northwest India from Iran. He had annexed the whole of Persia by defeating Persian king Darius III in the Battle of Arbela. So, the Battle of Arbela is between Alexander and King Darius III. This can also be important from the preliminary examination point of view. Alexander was always attracted towards India's wealth, which is why he also came to India as well. In the northwest India, just before Alexander's invasion, there were many small rulers like Ambi of Taxila and Porus of the region of Jhelum. Ambi accepted Alexander's sovereignty, but Porus put up a valiant but unsuccessful fight. And this fight, or the battle between Alexander and Porus, is what is called as the Battle of Hydaspes. Remember, the Battle of Hydaspes is between Alexander and Porus. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Tight monetary policy of US Federal Reserve could lead to capital flight. Capital flight may increase the interest cost of firms with existing external commercial borrowings. Devaluation of domestic currency decreases the currency risk associated with ECBs. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2022. When we look into the first two statements are right, but when you look into the third statement, it is incorrect. Why? That is because whenever there is devaluation of the domestic currency, it does not have any kind of effect on the external commercial borrowings. Why? That is because these external commercial borrowings happen in the denomination of the foreign currency and not in the domestic currency, which is why there is no impact. So third statement is wrong. First and second statement are right. So the answer to this would be A. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Special Marriage Act. What is this Special Marriage Act? When it comes to marriages in India, what exactly happens? It is not just about two individuals liking each other, but it is families coming together. There is lot of extravagance. There is lot of love that is shared. Families enjoy with each other. So it is not just individuals who are getting into the wedlock, but it is also the love of the family that also comes into the picture. When we speak about marriages in India, they are registered under the personal laws of the country. Let's say, for example, if a Hindu is getting married, he will register this marriage under the Hindu Marriage Act. So the Hindu Marriage Act is where if there are Hindus who are getting married, they'll be registering under this particular act. Then we also have Muslim personal laws as well. So if the couple are from the Muslim community, they have to register under the Muslim personal laws. Similarly, we have other personal laws. So if people want to get arranged marriage or they want to get married under their laws, that is the personal laws, the registration happens according to their Hindu Marriage Act or Muslim personal laws, Christian personal laws, so on and so forth. But what if there is a person from one community and he wants to marry a person from another community? Let's say, for example, a practicing Hindu or a practicing Muslim or a practicing Christian from this community want to marry a person from another community. The personal laws does not allow. In order to cater to such people, what we have is the Special Marriage Act. So basically, when it comes to the personal laws, people belonging to the same community get married under their home personal laws. But when it comes to people from different communities getting married, what we have is the Special Marriage Act. So the purpose of the Special Marriage Act is to establish legal measures to protect all those who want to marry across different religions. This act applies to all Indian nationals whether they live in India or outside. What are the requirements of a legitimate marriage under the Special Marriage Act? First, this will not entertain polygamy. What is polygamy? Let's say, for example, there is a person who wants to marry another woman while he is already in wedlock or he is married to another woman. In that case, he would not be able to marry another person. So the Special Marriage Act forbids polygamy and declares such a marriage null and void. The married partners must be of a sound mind. They would be able to think on their own terms as well. They should be able to think independently as well. So sound of mind, which is nothing but judgment of marriage, should be present as well. They should be able to take the decision in an independent manner. Followed by this, both parties to the marriage must have reached the legal age of majority. If it is a woman, she has to be 18 years of age. If it is a man, he has to be about 21 years of age. So both these people should have attained the age of majority. These are some of the important features under the Special Marriage Act. However, of late, what we are witnessing is number of petitions that are being filed in the Supreme Court of India for the same-sex marriages. We have the LGBT community. We have people who are getting married within the same sex. For example, a man marrying another man, a woman marrying another woman. So these people have filed a petition in the Supreme Court to make sure that their marriages are registered under the Special Marriage Act. All that they are saying is that this concept of husband and wife should be removed for such people, and what should be given is a neutral spouse. It basically means that as of now, same-sex marriage is not recognized under the Special Marriage Act. So all that they are requesting before the Supreme Court of India is to deliver a judgment so that these people would be able to register their marriage under the Special Marriage Act. There have been number of landmark judgments that have already been delivered by the Supreme Court of South Africa. The constitutional courts of South Africa have already declared that this same-sex marriage is constitutional, and it is also held under the legislations of the country as well. Similarly, what this article in the Indian Express goes on to say is that it is high time that the Supreme Court of India does clarify it, and it also recognizes such same-sex marriages under the Special Marriage Act. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.